constantly at 3 in the morning, and I'll just be laying in bed, and mine's rolling, and all of a sudden I can see it. There's been times I got up and scratched something on a piece of paper at 3 in the morning because I don't want to forget what just went through my mind and how we would actually fix this up, and how we would put A and B together and we come up with a solution.
He's adamant and very, very thorough about quality, and I agree with him. I'm just not good at it. I don't have that attention to detail. I'm kind of scatterbrained and out there. It doesn't work for me, but it works very much for him. And he's been a very, very, very good business partner for me to have from that aspect. But it's one thing to...
Recently on a radio show, and the caller was a couple of years away from retirement, and he asked an interesting question. Basically was, so when should I get in and talk with you guys? If I remember correctly, he was like 62, something like that, right, Mark Beck?
Yeah, that was a good call, and I remember my answer there was, you should be starting to build this relationship as soon as you're ready. And what do I mean by ready? When you're ready for advice, and I think that's important. So wherever you are, when you get to that spot where you're thinking about, should I be getting some advice, that is the spot to be starting.
Mark Beck is Managing Director of Wealth Management Services, Annex Wealth Management. When I heard that, I thought about where he was on the path and how we have a different planning process with him than, say, somebody in their 30s or 40s, or maybe somebody in their 70s. And that is custom and comprehensive wealth management and planning, right?
It certainly is. Other people would answer that you should start as early as possible. And I think the problem with that answer is some people aren't ready. So when you're younger, maybe you're not thinking big picture. You should be starting to save, but maybe you're not ready for advice. So across that spectrum, though, planning can look different.
At Annex Wealth Management, we'll meet you where you're at, and it's different for everybody. Mark, let's say somebody engages Annex Wealth Management in their 30s or 40s. What is our process with them?
So 30s and 40s, what we're looking for here is starting to establish habits and targets. So it's a little bit harder to talk to somebody that's, 40 years old and say, okay, pin down exactly when you're going to retire and exactly what you need for living expenses, because they're thinking all of these things are going to change so much. 65 years old. But what we can do is back into that and say, here's what you're on track for right now, and if you want the target to look a little bit different, then we need to make some adjustments. So effective use of resources, establish great savings habits, make sure that we're investing well, make sure that you know what you're on track to accomplish over time, and think about big picture goals. That's kind of where you want to be in your 30s and 40s.
Okay, next step, somebody's in their 50s. They've been working longer, their kids might be in college. Retirement is looming in the distance, but not so far away.
50s is where we start to think about what's next. What are the things I've been missing, or what can I do that's beyond the basics I have been accomplishing? So we might have a little bit more income. We might be moving beyond just max funding 401ks, for example, and start to build some additional investment savings elsewhere. You're probably executing on college strategies at this point and getting people kind of through that and making sure that the family is, successful and financially secure and those kinds of things. And so now those targets are becoming a little bit more tangible, but again, we're building a little more sophistication into how we're building the nest egg.
Now let's get to that caller who is just a couple of years away from retirement. Somebody comes to us at that point in their life. How is it different, or what are we working on with them?
It starts to feel like it's all coming together at this point. So now we're building sort of the transition plan. Okay, so a couple of years from retirement, where's my income going to come from? What do I need to do to prepare? What are some of the decision-making points I'm going to need to hit on how do I get ready for those things? Are there different sequences of events that I can put together that are going to, benefit me, that are going to help move the needle in my favor? And that's everything from which accounts I'm going to count on first, to the tax planning ramifications of that, to preparing for health insurance and where it comes from, and of course to preparing for things like making good Social Security decisions.
Mark Beck is Managing Director of Wealth Management Services at Annex Wealth Management. We meet our clients where they're at, and I know we work with new clients who are... What happens when that happens? And there's maybe an existing plan from somewhere else, or maybe because of poor service or lack of connection, they come to us, or maybe not.
Oftentimes not a plan. We do see that. It has happened occasionally where someone has been getting some financial planning advice and looking for something a little bit deeper or more engaging than sort of the superficial level that maybe they've been experiencing. It's easy for us when you've got your current financial plan because all the data, the inputs basically are right there. So that's sort of the raw materials. We can take that and really start to work with it. But moving the needle in terms of doing the math in this type of situation, you're already retired, are you really thinking about planning ahead for, the tax ramifications of required distributions, the charitable aspect of things like qualified charitable distributions, all of that really becomes, so important in that phase.
And if you're already retired, folks, don't think it's too late. We want to see you.
Well, absolutely. Even in those retirement years, there are so many really cool things that we help people with that are impactful. And that's beyond just, by the way, managing the investment portfolio. A big part of what we do, steer, manage, and help people towards best outcome, which means help manage your kind of psychology of investing. How do we do that? Build the framework around it well in advance of market volatility. So protect liquidity, for example. Where's the short-term money come from? Build the income buckets. Make sure you stay focused on the growth where the growth needs to be. And therefore, no anxiety around market volatility.
My dad came to Annex in his 80s. He had moved back to be near my sister and I felt it was important to have a fiduciary working on this stuff. That isn't uncommon either.
No, it's not. And actually, that one I would say is becoming more and more common. Oftentimes, by the way, this is clients that, are in those retirement years and now they're bringing their parents and they're saying, hey, can you help? This is a really satisfying area for me in particular to work. A couple of reasons. Number one, because they're working with a fiduciary, we can really help them kind of stay out of harm's way. This is where there is the possibility of making really bad mistakes or being taken advantage of. You don't want that to happen. Then number two, the peace of mind that comes with somebody helping them consolidate, clean up, organize, know what's going on, know where things are headed, and therefore being prepared for the transitions that are going to come at some point in our lives.
We want to meet you where you're at for investment, retirement planning, tax planning, and estate planning. We do it as a fee-only fiduciary. Know the difference? Website, annexwealth.com. Click that Get Started button and start the wealth metric process. Mark Beck, Managing Director, Wealth Management Services. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
This is The Investment Show, News Talk 1130, WISN.
What you doing, Hemingway?
Writing an ad about a capital technician superhero running around doing AC beyondification.
Well, let's hear it.
Capital Man says, Commissioner? Capital Man? Yes, Capital Man. Listen, when you want your air conditioner to run like new again, shine this signal into the night sky. And I'll be